HiAware is a cybersecurity solution provider for telecoms, enabling them to address 40% of their market 50% faster. Now watch your peers discuss their strategies and tactics for making cybersecurity a scalable and sustainable business for telecoms. HiAware Insights are powered by our cybersecurity levers of success, a proven methodology that enables telecoms to reduce their cybersecurity services learning curve and accelerate time to market. Now for a little bit more proper introduction, I'm extremely happy to have Lovro Peterlin, Managing Director of A1, second largest telecom in the country, with us discussing the power of an executive sponsor and how to best leverage one. Lovro, welcome again. I am really super excited about this conversation, but I really kind of want to start us off with a look back at the conversation that the two of us had offline, which was about motivating and demotivating people. I'd love how simplistically you actually explained that to me and how well it resonated and how I could kind of pull together some lines in understanding how people get motivated and demotivated when they're project owning and trying to talk to an executive sponsor, and maybe they don't really get that attention or support needed. In your own words, I'll just let it be there, but motivation versus demotivation.
Basically, this is an element of leadership which I face the most, or which I learned during my career the most. A lot of times, we hear about you have to motivate people, But I think that the main role of the leader is that he doesn't demotivate the people. Because, you cannot motivate anyone if he doesn't have this, in him. If he's not intrinsically motivated. For instance, when you change a job, when you come as a newbie to new office, to new team, how high your motivation is. We can say it's 100%, And there, through the years, or through the months, or even through the weeks or days, it can happen that, some decisions, some consequences, or some basic communication from your colleagues, and especially from your leaders, can demotivate you. And I think that we as leaders, we need to be extremely careful not to demotivate people.
I love how you position those just general leadership principles, but if you do them right, your people will stay at that 100%, they will deliver, they'll be motivated really to do their best work every single day that they come in. And I think that's a really good connection with the executive sponsorship discussion that we have today. Executive sponsor is at HiAware, we believe, one of the most important elements that we face within a new project. Yeah? It is the person who sets the tone, it sets sort of the work ethic that's going to go behind this, it sets the level of importance on this project, and of course is there as somebody who supports the team to enable them to be successful. But really, in your own words, how do you see an executive sponsor? And maybe even better is, how do you identify the right one?
Basically, these are two quite difficult questions, but the most important ones. I think that executive sponsor is a senior executive, which is on one hand involved in the business, but basically supporting the project on three different levels. One level is, of course, he has to manage the strategic part of operation. He needs to involve this project in a kind of strategic framework of the whole company. This is usually done, or if it's successfully done, this kind of projects have basically is in line with strategy, and it has its own goals, which goes in direction with the strategic goals of the company. Secondly, and executive sponsor usually manage his own layer. So the other managers, and because most projects are complex one. They need different people from different departments, they need different resources, and executive sponsor, how I see it, his role is, of course, to promote this project and to manage the same level of management, especially others managers who has different priorities.
This is so important. If I can jump in quickly, it is probably one of the most important things that an executive sponsor does is assures that other leaders, team leaders, understand this project, understand the priority, where it fits in the overall frame, but can also allocate the work, the time, the dedication that the operational tactical teams need to put into this. Because if we don't secure that leadership approval, those resources don't have the bandwidth, they don't have this on their plate. They don't have it on their plate, things really don't move. You see it the same?
I totally agree with you. Basically, the most project failed when there is a lack of dedication from non-primary, organizational unit. For instance, you have a kind of marketing project, but if, for instance, in our case, in telco business, IT is not heavily involved and dedicated, and passionate about it, things fails. Or, you have a marketing project and salespeople are not basically involved with the same passion, the same vision in the project, basically things failed. We have another marketing project, on the table, which doesn't bring money, and this is not what we want to do.
We would like to understand where it sits. So which department does that executive sponsor cover? And more importantly is how is it cross-functionally aligned? So that we know that resources will be available so that when our project sponsor, whoever that person is, has the doors open to start moving this internally. It's probably one of the most important and one of the crucial things that we have to do directly from the get-go.
Yeah, I read the other day that more than 50% of projects which do not have executive sponsor, which could be on a C level, C minus level, fails.
And again, it comes back to one of our discussions that the two of us had offline, and you shared a couple of really good ideas of how tactically to engage. But I'd really like to kind of set it back to you is saying, why would you engage in a tactical exercise?
Yeah, this is the third level of engagement of executive sponsor, which is basically dedication to the team. Why you dedicate to the project is that because you dedicate to the team. Meaning, one of the most important role of manager is coaching or mentorship, and people see this in you if you practice it well. And the most important part is, a real good manager has one tool at his disposal to manage, and this tool is called time. Anything which the executive manager takes time for, it's important. On what you are focusing on executive sponsor, this is important for the company. And we have to be really careful as the senior leaders where we put our focus. Because, if we miss it, then we could steer either the project, but most importantly, we usually steer away the culture. And I think this is one of the biggest mistakes we can do, that we steer away the culture, the values, because of our wrong focuses.
But it also kind of comes out in terms of, lead by example. I'm listening to this more and more and more, and it feels like, yes, I'm an executive sponsor, but on the other side, I'm very much hands-on because I want to be a part of the team and I want to be perceived as being a part of the team within that. And I remember from our conversation, I took a couple of notes when I was preparing for this. I remember you were mentioning, there's also decisions that you have to do about scope, about schedule, about budget, which are, those kind of baseline things that executive sponsor would do. But you said something really interesting the last time that I have it here in big letters written down is you participate in exercises that simulate real world challenges. And I wanted to understand what does that mean? How can a project owner benefit from that?
Basically, experimentation is, in my opinion, the best way how we learn things, how they work, how they are perceived especially from the customers, and that's why we engage in a lot of experimentation within the company. That's why we also it's good that companies, as we did, develop this agile way of thinking, agile methodologies, where basically failure, is a kind of success. What I preach is that we can fail every time, because failure means that we at least tried. Fail fast, learn fast, pivot fast. Yeah. And I think this is especially for local or this environment a little bit difficult, because we are not used to praise failures. Yes, our culture is like we want the success stories, not fail stories, but we learn the most of the fail stories, and I think this is one of the things everybody should be engaged in this kind of experimentations, learnings, and doing things fast.
Very well said. It's one of the things that I see the most changing in the world of kind of go-to-market, and obviously at HiAware we also kind of implemented that in our own way of deploying go-to-market with new partners, and then supporting the old partners grow the business. And we see many more kind of companies jump on board and say, okay, I want to validate with my customer. Is that the right customer? Are the needs the right needs that we're describing? Does the customer resonate with this value proposition? So making checks along the way actually accelerates the overall deployment, and we can see that some of the telcos are being capable of launching new products in 90 days.
Yes. Do you know why is that? Because the speed kills. The speed kills the ones who doesn't have it. And now I think in the world where basically we have everything at our hands, the demand is much bigger than supply. We need to be fast in order to cover this demand. This is the shift, the transition, which most of the companies needs to do, based on, of course, educated, data-driven guesses. And I think that this is an important shift. Before we made the decisions based on our guts, and more senior were bigger gut you had. Usually we do not do a lot because we already did it. So, but now I think that decision making should be based on data. We have a lot of data. For instance, telcos, we sit on data, and we need to make decisions based on that. However, we are facing in the company, I would say 4 types of people, or how they perceive the data. We have first type which said we don't need data. Second type said, no, but I'm afraid of data. We did it. We used to do it like that. Then there is a third type which use the data, to basically frame their own axioms, meaning that they said, okay, it's like that, and then they misuse data to say that it's
exact data to support the narrative that they want to drive.
Yes. Yeah, those are the most dangerous in the company, because they're usually going upscale or up the company the fastest, because they use data smartly, which is not necessarily good for the company. And then you have the fourth type of basically rational, data-driven people, where they are passionate about decision making through data, and these 4 type of people we need to develop as a companies much more than it was used to.
Here's a question that pops into my mind, because as a project owner, you could probably find there's plenty of different people around the world, and out of those 4 that we have, one of them is bound to be a project owner of a cybersecurity solution that pops in. As an executive sponsor, how do you manage that? How do you manage a type that overuses that data to support a narrative that they want to drive? How do you put safety checks into this? How do you ensure that everything runs according to the bigger picture that you have, and it doesn't get cut into an alley that it's not good for the company?
2 ways. One way we already mentioned, you got engaged. You have to be there. You have to think with the team about it. You have to discuss as much as possible about these challenges you have. And secondly, you need to build a team of different personality types, of different backgrounds. That's why you get the best out of it. We shouldn't be afraid of building the team which is not coherent, mindset coherent or skill coherent, because this can really bring added value towards this kind of challenges.
Do you like disruptors who are kind of more challengers within the teams that you create? That you have somebody who's an oddball who every now and then kind of like asks a more provocative question, like pokes where people usually don't want to look into? Do you kind of...
Do I like them? No. Nobody likes them, okay, because they are basically nobody really likes them. But are they important, and they should be respected within them? Of course. Their questions are extremely important for development of the project or risk mitigation, or that we go out of group herd mentality.
And I like the way that you said it. It's in the end, it's risk mitigation, because at one point we're all bound to be on the project and on the same bandwagon. Because if the project sounds good, if the data is supporting, if we all see the opportunity, if the pain point that we are resolving is so clearly outlined, then obviously kind of all of our perspective gets a little bit narrower and gets into that mentality of, this is a really good project, let's keep on pushing.
There is one problem, it's like that. If you ask everybody, you make bad decision.